Hello everyone. How is everyone doing today? Welcome to today's Tulu Read Aloud session. As you all know, I'm doing Indian author stories this week. So today's story is called To Each Her Own by Vijadan Detha and it's illustrated by Anita Hashimi. It's about a fisherwoman who is stranded on land one night, unable to go home due to floods around her house. A gardener very generously offers her rooms to stay for the night. But the gardener cannot stand the smell of the fish, while the fisherwoman cannot stand the smell of flowers. Too polite to say anything, they try to get through the night in their own ways. Let's see how the story goes. To each her own. Once upon a time and place, there was a freshwater lake, and at the edge of this lake was a fisherman's hut. The air was thick with the smell of fish, but the fisherman and his wife loved the smell. This is the little hut they live in. Every day, the fisherman would fill her basket with fish and walk to the nearest town to sell them. That's the fisherwoman and that's the fisherman. One day, as she was leaving, her husband said, "It looks like it will rain heavily. Hurry back. I fear the river will flood." The fisherwoman had barely crossed the river and entered the town when it started pouring. She quickly sold off all her fish and then ran back as fast as she could. But the river already had big waves. She turned away sadly. She could not go home now. But where would she stay the night? Look at all the big waves here. Just then, the fisherman saw the gardener. The gardener looked after the Raja's beautiful gardens. That's the gardener here. She saw the fisherwoman's sad face and said, "The river has come up, no? But don't worry, please come home with me." The fisherwoman was happy and grateful. As they walked, the gardener said, "You are so wet, you must be very cold." The fisherwoman laughed. "We are like fish ourselves. No matter how wet, we are never cold." Suddenly, the fisherwoman said, "What is that smell?" "The royal garden." The gardener smiled. "It smells wonderful, doesn't it?" "You sleep here at night?" her friend asked, holding her nose. "Of course, I can't sleep anywhere but here in my garden, among my beautiful flowers. You must take some with you when you go back." The fisherwoman was struggling to breathe as little as possible as she softly said, "You are very kind, but what would I do with flowers?" "Why, you don't know how wonderful my flowers are? Touch one and your fingertips will smell sweet for 3 days," the gardener said very proudly. Then she took her into a room next to the garden and said, "You sit here. I'll go and get you some dry clothes." The fisherwoman thought, "How can she even breathe? How will I sleep here?" Soon the gardener came home with some clean, dry clothes heaped with flowers. Those are her clothes, under all those flowers. The poor fisherwoman felt like vomiting. Suddenly, the gardener sniffed the air sharply and wrinkled up her nose. "What's that awful smell?" She looked around and saw the basket lying in the corner. "Why did you bring your empty basket inside?" The gardener quickly took the basket outside the room. What could the fisherwoman say? They sat and ate their meal together. How awful the gardener smelled, thought the fisherwoman. The gardener too thought, how fishy that woman smells. But of course, both the women were too polite to say anything. Meal over, the gardener took her leave and went away to her room with a big sigh of relief. And away from the smell of fish, she slept in her room on a bed of sweet-smelling flowers. The fisherwoman tossed and turned and tried hard, but she could not sleep. That's the fisherwoman under all those flowers. Then she quietly tiptoed outside and brought her basket in. She buried her nose into her fish basket, and she too was fast asleep. That's her fish basket there. The end. Isn't that a lovely story about two people who are so different from each other and yet polite enough to accept each other's differences? We love the end of the book that showcases the diversity of Indian languages. To Each Her Own is a beautiful book to show children how diverse people can be and how it is important to be accepting of each other's differences without imposing our own values onto each other. Diversity is not about how we differ. Diversity is about embracing one another's uniqueness. On that note, thank you very much for joining me here today, and I'll see you again tomorrow with another story. Thank you. Bye-bye.